Welcome back to the Central Indiana Sports Report, Purdue Boilermaker fans, for today's special edition of the Purdue Report, our Purdue-Minnesota football preview. So far this season, Purdue has had 2 games that they easily won and controlled, 3 games against teams that are ranked or were ranked or, pretty significant Big Ten teams and Notre Dame. This is the first game all year, I think. It's kind of a toss-up. It could go either way.
I think Minnesota is definitely a team that Purdue can hang with and should hang with. In a conference like the Big Ten, you need to beat your peer programs, and I think Minnesota and Purdue would be considered peer programs here. So if you look at the series as a whole, Minnesota's got a 41-35-3 lead overall, but Purdue's won the last 2 meetings between these 2 schools. So Purdue's kind of had the momentum as of late, but Purdue's still chasing their first Big Ten win since 2023 and their first road conference win since 2022. So it's been a while, and this is a good of an opportunity as ever for that first Big Ten road win.
October 21st, 2022, Purdue won 20-10 at Minnesota. And then in 2023, Purdue won 49-30 in West Lafayette. In fact, Minnesota's last win over Purdue in Minnesota was 2018.
Wow.
You talk about peer group. Purdue's historically has been pretty good against what you call their peer group. In a lot of the head-to-head series, the Illinois, Indiana, Minnesota, Northwestern. Hey, did you know that Minnesota played its first ever football game against Purdue?
I did not. So it's a very interesting fact.
October 27th, 1894, a 24-0 win by the Gophers. Came across that in my research. And then the next year, Purdue beat Minnesota in the first game ever between the programs in West Lafayette, 18-4.
Wow.
A couple of safeties, apparently. What I also came across in my research, Jake, is that Minnesota's defense is very vulnerable to giving up a lot of yards, and its offense isn't great, but its wide receivers make plays. So you've got to keep the big play, stop them from making big plays.
I think it's been a common theme for this Purdue team is giving up big plays. If they can limit that, I think Purdue's going to give themselves a good shot to win this game. Plus, if you can limit the big plays, that kind of limits the crowd and getting them into the game. This is Minnesota's homecoming game, so I would imagine there'll be a lot of people there. They'll be rowdy. It's a 7:30 kickoff, 7:30 Eastern kickoff, 6:30 local time. But when hosting Purdue for homecoming, the Gophers are 7-4 all time. So they've got the advantage for hosting Purdue on homecoming. I think be a good strong environment to play in, and Purdue's going to, to your point, Greg, limit the explosive plays to try to keep the crowd out of it.
It's 7:30 on the Big Ten Network in Minneapolis. The weather is expected to be perfect. So when you go to Minnesota, you always have to be concerned about that, but we're expecting perfect weather, and that should be good for a passing game that's been really successful this year. I really like Purdue's receivers. Against these defensive backs in particular. Rutgers was able to pick them apart, particularly in the first half on Saturday. And I think the key in Rutgers, the reason they lost is they weren't able to do this, is to keep from turning the ball over, because Minnesota has some athletes on that defense, and when they get their hands on the ball, they can turn it around, and you got to avoid that if you're going to pull off the upset.
And to your point, Purdue's got to have a good game through the air. It's going to be tough with the offensive line getting the running game going, as Minnesota ranks 10th nationally in rush defense. So they're tough between the tackles. Going to be hard to if we get Mockbee and Tony Harris going, be great, but it's going to be hard. So really got to limit any mistakes on offense and really get the receivers going. So last game against Illinois, Ryan Brown, played pretty well, 302 yards, no interceptions. He played pretty well. He showed boys under pressure, but Minnesota does kind of disguise their coverage as well, and need to make sure we're communicating well on offense and calling out what we see and trying to limit any turnovers.
All right. I think I said this on the Purdue report this week. We talked a little football. Purdue's going to win this game. They're going to end this streak. They're going to end the Big Ten streak. They're going to end all of the streaks. I think they're going to win this game. I'm just going to put it out there. Here's when I look at Minnesota's schedule, they beat Buffalo 23-10. Not impressive. They beat Northwestern State 66-0. Irrelevant. They lost to Cal 27-14. Cal's not horrible. They're not good. Rutgers, they beat 31-28 at home. Rutgers is not good and should have won that game. It took Minnesota to 3 minutes to go in the game to win that one. Rutgers dominated that game for much of it. And then, of course, last week against Ohio State, Minnesota's defense is capable of playing some good defense, as we saw on Saturday. I think Ryan Brown's going to have a big game, and I think those receivers are better than Minnesota's defensive backs. Give me Purdue 42, Minnesota 38.
Wow. That I obviously I hope you're right, but that's a lot of points scored for Purdue.
I think they're going to have a field day through the air from what I've seen from Minnesota's defensive backfield.
I hope you're right. The line currently is Minnesota's favored by 9.5.
Way too much.
It did open at 10.5, but it's dropped to 9.5. So I think the consensus feel is that Minnesota is slightly better, but Purdue hopefully is that's good question. I'm just going off what Vegas what Vegas is saying, but
I want to make this very clear. Vegas knows more than I do. They get me every time. So I don't want to say that I know more than Vegas because I don't. But I've watched Purdue's games all year, and I watched the Rutgers and Ohio State games, the last two games for Minnesota. I think Purdue's better.
These are the games you have to win, and this is a great opportunity to really it'd be the first. I don't want to say monumental, but the first kind of signature win for Barry Odom's tenure as the Purdue head coach. So a game that would be great to win, and if they play well enough, definitely can win.
Minnesota head coach, by the way, PJ Fleck, has done a pretty good job at Minnesota.
He's a guy that I think some Purdue fans wanted, when it was time to hire Jeff Brom. Those were Brom and PJ Fleck were some of the top targets for Purdue. He's done well. I think some fans don't necessarily like his personality, but you can't really dispute what he's done on the football field. He's kind of turned that Minnesota program around.
And it's a program that's really struggled through the years. I don't remember a good Minnesota team. It's possible they've had some. I think the last couple of years have been about as good as they've been in my lifetime, and that's not very good. You talked about the peer group, Jake. Next 3 weeks, you got Minnesota, Rutgers, Northwestern. That's exactly your peer group right there.
Exactly. Really need to win. We talked about it earlier, but it'd be great to go in October 2-2. At one point you're kind of shooting for 3-1. If you could upset Illinois, that would have been a big win. We saw how that game turned out. So if we can go, win more than we lose the rest of the month, I think Purdue would be in a good spot.
All right, Jake. I've said I think Purdue's going to win the game. You agree with me?
I'm going to have to disagree. I really hope that Purdue can win, but I'm just until they can prove it to me. I think I'm just gonna keep going against them here. I'm going to say Minnesota wins this one, 35-28. So that's it's a seven score game or seven 7-score game. So I think it'll be close. I think Purdue should cover the spread, but still think Purdue will fall short. So if Purdue can win on early downs, limit the big plays like we talked about, protect the ball, would love to see them establish the tempo too. Maybe mix in some RPO, and we'll need special teams to be perfect, basically, in my opinion, for Purdue to win. So McAllister's a really good punter. Spencer Porath, he's been pretty good so far this year.
And they won the Rutgers game because they blocked a field goal in the first quarter. Otherwise, they probably don't win that game. They would have gone down 17-0 in the first quarter had they not blocked a field goal. So they are definitely good on special teams. I'm looking forward, Jake, to your text on Saturday saying, man, you were right.
Yeah.
The Purdue receivers are just way better than the Minnesota defensive backs. I think that's the difference.
Like I said, I hope you're right. I'm just going with my head on this one, not my heart. But Minnesota's kicker is 6 of 9 for this year. Kind of struggled beyond 40 yards. So if Purdue can stiffen up on the defensive end and not let them get too close to the end zone, I think Purdue's got a good shot there. Minnesota's D-line, they're not huge. Purdue has a size advantage in the trenches for the offensive line versus Minnesota's defensive line, but it's a pretty good front for Minnesota. Just going to have to see Purdue prove it, and then maybe I'll start to buy in, start to believe. I was going to point out that Javon Tracy, he's the leading wide receiver with leading targets for Minnesota. It's the brother
of winner on Saturday.
It's the brother of Tyrone Tracy Jr., who obviously, as we know, was on Purdue and currently plays for the New York Giants.
Had 4 carries for 6 yards tonight, and he's a nice player from Indianapolis. I think it's going to be a big night. Speaking of high schoolers from Indiana, Nitro Tuggle, big night. Jake, boiler up.
Yeah, boiler up. I hope I can send you that text saying you're right.
Thanks so much to Jake for joining me. He and I will be back on Saturday or possibly Sunday morning to recap and react to the Purdue win, as I predicted, over the Gophers. Please share this podcast with a Purdue fan in your life and help spread the word. The Central Indiana Sports Report is here talking about Central Indiana sports every single day. Central Indiana Sports Report is a product of ITG Media, and I love Susie.